Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Everything HR podcast. I'm your host, Manuel, founder and CEO of Omni HR. Today, Rebecca and I are going to discuss advancing in your career or even changing careers and what that can feel like. And sometimes it feels like starting over.
It really does.
So, this topic can help anyone, not just those HR pros that are out there, advancing in their specific path. So, Becca, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on again, like always. So, let's dive right in.
Absolutely, yeah. This topic I find really, really interesting because there's so many layers to it. One is the individual preference, like what stage do I want to be? Like how far do I want to go? And that's a really important decision because sometimes you're not ready for the next step, and to make that move honestly just puts everyone in a worse situation. Yourself for being unhappy as well as your team because now they're relying on you to do a role that because of you possibly being unhappy isn't quite making it.
hmm
So it's really I think it's also really interesting because it also shows a lot about the culture of the company too, and like the HR side of it, which I know I'm sorry, I'm always bringing it back to the HR side,
Which
but
is perfectly fine. I mean, that is your compass. That's your scope.
you know, but bringing it back to the HR side, the thing that I find so interesting about it is that personal development is really big for HR. Like
hmm
that's the kind of culture that you want, is you want to help bring people up, right? Internal promotions, right? Having a career path or a track that people can follow and they can move up and move forward, or just gaining new skills, continuing their education, things like that. All of that is really kind of falls into the HR scope, like you were saying. So I'm very excited about this topic, kind of because it's helping out individuals growing themselves, and also because it's the HR side of thing, and culture is, as I've talked about so many times before, it's so important.
hmm
So, what's kind of your take on the topic?
On advancing or culture, because you kind of had a lot going on there just now. So,
No, you're
or
right. You're right. So,
yeah.
kind of going back to the original topic, advancing in your career path.
So advancing in your career path, I think that many, not all, should be looking into advancing in their career path. And I'm not trying to discourage anyone, but there are sometimes when you're trying to advance and you don't fit the bill, not just minor requirements, but I mean, you do not fit the bill, then taking a step back and reevaluating is probably your best bet instead of trying to advance in that field. On the more realistic and positive note of advancing in a career, do your best and go for it. I, for one, am fearful of advancing, at least in my life right now.
Hmm.
I don't want to mess anything up. I don't want to mess anybody else's life up or anything like that. And I think I keep falling back on that. Whereas years ago, um, I would grab the bull by its horns. And I've been a manager. I wasn't getting the pay as a manager should have been getting, but I sure had the responsibilities and the workload of it. But there's just something about advancing that a lot of people take it as an ick,
Hmm.
or I'm looking for a better word here, more of a burden. And the reason why I say that is because of the culture right now is not healthy. Of when I'm advancing, am I getting what I should be getting in that new title? Am I even getting it now before I advance? So there's a lot that is in this topic. It's a heavy loaded question, I think they say. And whereas one might be like, you should really just be ambitious and driven, go for the advancement. Another might say, is it worth it? And myself might say, I'm kind of scared. I'm kind of scared to advance because I'm worried that if something goes wrong, there goes my job and there goes the food on the table. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah. I think that's honestly great for you to identify that though. Like that's really powerful all in itself because it tells you where you are in life, and then you can revalue it, value and re-identify what it is that you find value in, and then making your way towards that. And it doesn't have to be a super advanced career or a very advanced, I should say, like title or position. Like that matters less than the individual happiness. So I completely get where you're coming from um, on that end. And we can talk so much about the philosophy of advancing and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. I do want to give anyone who's listening out there a few tips, though, that are actionable on how they can advance in their career if that's what they want, right? Just like we were talking about. So, first off, the one that I think of is finding out what the next step is, right? So, planning ahead. So, that is one thing that I think that a lot of organizations don't help enough with, because if you plan ahead, you have a specific path that people can climb, then you know what the ladder is, right? You know what the next goal is. And then if you know what the goal is, all you have to identify is, well, what exactly do I have to do to meet that goal? And
Mm-hmm.
then you just do those steps, right? That's really as easy as it has to be. You know what I'm saying? Or as hard as it has to be, I guess. But moving forward, identifying what exactly the next step would be, and then seeing how to get there, that's it. And that is one conversation with your leadership. That's really it. This entire thing, advancing careers, anything like that, all comes down to communication. Because if your team leader or your manager, your supervisor, whoever it is that you report to, doesn't even know that you want to advance, unless your work is so spectacular that they just want to advance you, you have to communicate. You have to let them know, right? And that could be something as simple as asking for a raise. $5, $10, it doesn't matter. Or if you go percentage wise, right? 10%, 7%. So, however it is that you want to ask it, promotion, raise, whatever, you're saying, this is where I'm currently at, but this is where I want to be. Or you're asking, this is where I'm currently at, where should I go? And if you have a good leader, or even a decent one, they should at least give you some idea, right? Well, you're a supervisor right now. I need to see that you know how to lead people from the front, that you have good communication skills, writing skills, and there's also a seminar that our organization makes you go to. That is now 4 items that I have to do before I become the next stage. He didn't even give me a timeline. What if I get all that done in the week? Like, if I show him that I can do everything up front, does there have to be a wait period? Like, you literally just asking that question and not limiting yourself by what you believe in, that's how you advance. So that's one path and one little tip. So we'll break that one down. What are kind of your thoughts on
I notice while you're giving these tips, you have like broad shoulder appeal in your words. What is that? Confidence. I know
that?
nobody says it like that, but I call things nothing nobody would identify unless I explain it better. But you know, you have that confidence, and I think that if following your tips, if I wanted to be successful in my goal of getting that accomplishment in the what is that word? That word. The main topic. What are we discussing right now? The
Oh,
word
advancing your career?
advancing. Thank you. I need to have the confidence and to do it.
Yeah.
And thinking about that, if I try to attempt in asking for a raise, a new title, a promotion, or anything really, and I approach it in this feeble, fearful manner, it's most likely not going to be successful.
Yeah.
So I think that your tips are fantastic in word,
Mm-hmm.
but unless being matched up with that confidence, like I just said, and I think time and place is important.
Mm-hmm.
Your audience is important. You know, obviously don't approach the manager that's been trying to get you fired from day one.
That's great. That's a
That
great
is,
point.
you know, people do go through that. um I know someone in our family who has been pushing and pushing for advancements, better relocations, all that good stuff, but they've got a manager on team that they have to channel through, and she does not want to let them go unless they're fired. um Nor does she want to see them this person in the family advance.
Mm.
So I think that your tips spot on in tandem with everything else.
Yeah, I 100% I get that. And it's great to see that too, because like you're right, environment is huge, right? But what I say to that though is if you can't fix it being inside, then you have to leave.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. There's literally just two options. So any environmental issues that you have breaks down to two options. Can you fix it? Live with it? Stay comfortable enough to suffer through it? Like that's fine. That's all an environmental kind of part of it. But then you're going to stay there and you're going to deal with the same stuff. The other option is you transition, you go somewhere else, you do something else. And that could be changing career paths, that could just be changing companies, right? But at the end of the day, you have two options as a team member. You either stay or you leave. So with the mindset, like you were saying, that's, and I remember we've actually talked about this previously, that's what like entrepreneurship mindset in the workplace is. I think they call it intrapreneurship.
Mm.
But basically like that mindset in the workplace, and it's as simple as understanding where you're at objectively and then considering what you want the next step to be. And then after you make that decision, you commit. You just move forward. That's it's really just as easy as that because at the end of the day, that's how it is, right? No matter the environment, you could be getting abused by your boss and I mean that like, yelling at you things like that. Obviously, a legal abuse is a completely different situation.
Yeah,
But
you need to leave if that's occurring,
yeah,
but
but I mean like but even if someone's just yelling at you or you feel like you're being mistreated, you need to leave. And I know they talk about this like quiet quitting thing. It's not quiet quitting. You're literally just doing your job while you look for other jobs. Are we really titling that now? Who
I'm
hasn't done that?
there's titles for everything, and I think that new titles will take on old titles because old titles are too offensive and this and that. So I'm glad you actually brought that up. And I want to go back just a little bit when you mentioned if your boss is yelling at you or mistreating you. There is a fine line between um discipline, like legitimate discipline, and neglect or abusive behavior
Mm-hmm.
from a boss, coworker, etc. And a lot of people tend to get those two mixed up, whether they're lying to themselves or whatever's going on. And the reason why I mention that, I have seen it a lot. And I'm not gonna lie, I have also let myself get carried away. And I've also been like, this boss is not treating me right. Had to take a step back and really put myself into place to realize I wasn't doing my job. This is years ago. I wasn't doing my job. Um, I was demanding things that weren't realistic for like benefits. And I would get upset that my boss would get on my case about not completing my job in a timely manner or would just simply just tell me no. And I'd cry wolf. And there's a lot of people who do that, which causes issues along the way for those who are genuinely getting mistreated and who are genuinely being abused in the workplace because now you have person A crying wolf. No one knows if they're telling the truth or not. They're taking it seriously. Person B is genuinely being mistreated. Well, they're not going to actually listen to person B because person A already got everything going on.
Mm-hmm.
Person B just sounds like they're complaining. Got it all, mixed up and it's messy. So I'm glad you brought it up because this kind of shifts back into trying to excel in the workplace. Again, I forgot what the word was.
Advancing.
Advancing. Thank you. um, this kind of goes back to advancing in the workplace, and the reason why I bring it back with them in tandem is we have many who are advancing who don't deserve it. And there are many who are not advancing, like you mentioned, who do deserve it, who maybe they are talking to their managers, maybe they aren't, but they're not getting in that position that they're supposed to be in.
Yeah.
So you might have someone that becomes an assistant manager and they are not up to par with that title. They're barely up to par with just a standard coworker of, I don't know, like staff. I can't think of a title,
Yeah.
but just a basic shift worker. They can't even do that, and yet they got the promotion they
Mm.
really should not be in.
Yeah.
And now they're leading people the wrong way, and these new people are doing everything wrong. And it really has that domino effect.
Mm.
So the whole mistreatment in the workplace and these new titles of of quiet quitting or quiet firing. It's always been around.
Yeah,
I think we're just identifying it in new words that makes it easier for us to understand, but it's always been here.
yeah.
And social media makes it bigger than it actually is because people are, they're reblogging it. Well,
Mm,
oh my gosh, I sound old. Not reblogging it, but they're sharing it
yeah.
across many platforms and it's getting the hype, as they say.
Wow, nice.
I know, right? I'm pushing 30 and I'm pushing 30 going on 60.
Nice. I like it. I like it. I mean, as far as what you just said, I want to first off say thank you for your honesty. Like, it's really hard for people to admit that, like, they were in the wrong or, like, they just didn't have the right mindset at the time. So, like, that's really impressive that
It
you
took a
brought that
while.
up.
I needed to mature to get here. I'm
Yeah,
not going to lie.
for sure. And everyone does, right? It's not you don't wake up and you're just like amazing.
Hmm.
Everything takes time. 100%. So, I completely jive with what you're saying. Uh, I definitely understand the fact of the right mindset, being in the right position, having the right training, having a leader or a mentor that actually show you the path. Like, there are things that make advancing in your career easier and harder, right? Obviously, if you're put in the perfect environment where your company has the culture of always looking internally and focusing on building people right from the very beginning, like, yeah, you're in a great spot. But how do you get to that great spot, right? It's kind of like,
It takes a lot of work.
yeah,
It takes a lot of do's and don'ts. Trial by error, I think it's called.
trial by fire.
Trial by fire. Okay. But it takes a lot of work. You don't just start out that way, like you said. Like no one wakes up that way. Um, Building a workplace is going to take a lot of, we did this, it didn't work out, but we learned from that. Hopefully they learned from that because I've seen a lot of people who just do the same thing on repeat, and not all the time is it the good thing on repeat. But I think I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Um, yeah, I mean, it's really, if you have the right environment, it can be very, very easy to advance. But if you don't have the right environment, you're the one choosing to stay there, right? Like, no one's forcing you unless you have a contract like the military. You're not really getting forced in your position. It's at will. You can leave whenever you want. You don't even technically need to do the 2 week notice because if you get fired, you're not going to have a 2 week notice.
That's true.
I mean, as long as the company is good and treated you well, 100% I believe you should do a 2 week. But if they treated you like garbage, like that's,
You
I
would be kind
believe,
to give them a notice.
yeah, I see both
Yeah.
both factors on that. But yeah, when it comes to your environment, it's huge. But you control your environment. You choose to stay at the job that doesn't have good leadership, that doesn't have a positive manager, that doesn't want or doesn't know what they're doing, and then they push that onto you. You're choosing to stay there,
Yeah.
right? Whether it be comfort, like it's not bad enough to want to leave, or the pay is decent enough to want to stay, or you were, for whatever reason, you're happy there as a comfortable whatever.
I feel like there should be a disclaimer with this. And for anyone who's listening, this is more of the American culture because, we are aware out there in certain countries, there are a lot of workers who don't get a choice. And we're not talking about something that is pure downright inhumane. This is more of the American culture workplace where typically on almost 100% if you get a job it is by choice. We're not talking about anything such as um trafficking and someone is put to work by like that. So I just feel like that disclaimer should be out there because I know that there's someone somewhere out there that's going to be like, well, Sally didn't get a choice. She was picked up by some. Listen, we're not talking about that. Okay, that's a whole different ball game, and it's not for us. So that's just a disclaimer. I feel like that needs to be out on the table.
That's hilarious. I did not make that connection to this
You
conversation
remember
at
our
all.
conversation way back, and I was like, I'm a little bit on woke culture. I'm no longer agreeing with woke culture, but I am aware of it, and I'm seeing
Ding.
I'm seeing a pattern of the woe is me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's why I mentioned the disclaimer.
I'm
Yeah.
proud of you.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you.
You
See?
shouldn't.
That's maturing though,
Feelings
right?
matter. I'm not saying that
Feelings don't
feelings don't
matter.
matter.
I'm proud that you identify that now.
But bringing it back, and now that we've moved on from the disclaimer, um, the whole idea of it is your choice to be somewhere or not, I'm starting to agree with more because I'm no longer just thinking of the woe is me aspect of it. For a job, for those who are like, well, I have to be here because I have to put food on the table, that's understandable. But if you are aware that your job is that toxic, you need to be looking for a different source of income,
Mm-hmm.
that you are going to be treated better, you are going to make better money. Do your research. And part of me wants to say that some people like living like that, but I'm not trying to start a fight with anyone either. So if you feel like you're stuck, then maybe get a counselor, a free coach. There's so many free coaches on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
You just reach out and you say, hey, this is where I'm stuck at, and I need to figure out how I can move on. Start with that and move on from that toxic workplace. You don't have to stay there. Like Judge Judy says, did anyone tie you up? Did anyone point a certain item at your head? No. If you answered no to both of those questions, you don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
You need to move on. So I'm starting to agree more with your mindset, but I still don't agree with feelings don't matter.
Don't worry. We'll be
Feelings drive
keeping.
us.
Yeah, don't worry. This podcast will keep going. I'll have plenty of time to convince you. So, yeah, 100%. I really liked what you were saying there. It's really big when it comes to moving forward, understanding the mindset. I underestimated the mindset when I was younger, and like all these self-help books. I remember I was in, I think, middle school, and they told us to read like the 7 habits of a highly successful person. And
You got that in middle school?
I think so, yeah.
I didn't get that in middle school.
and uh and stuff like that, and it didn't matter to me in the least. And not until I became older that I realized mindset is literally everything. Like everything
Yeah,
moves starting from your mindset.
which is why I say feelings matter in a different time frame. Not in time frame, but in different aspect.
Yeah.
Do feelings matter? Because how you feel will eventually be your outcome of what you do. So if you're feeling negative, are you going to get anything done? Hardly. Maybe not at all.
I mean, I don't want to start like a completely separate subject, but
All right,
I'll
keeping the
just
feelings to the matter of not excelling. What's the word? Advancing.
advancing.
Advancing. I'm going to keep asking you. So keeping feelings along with the coast of advancing in a time frame, just like I mentioned, your environment matters. If you feel like absolute garbage that day when you're trying to ask for an advancement, is it going to happen? No, because it's going to show. If you're feeling amazing and it's showing, people can see she's doing good. He's doing good. He, they, them, whatever you want to call yourself, they're doing fantastic. And you go for that advancement, you're probably going to get it. It rubs off. It's contagious.
So the way that you feel
Oh boy.
doesn't matter in
No,
this situation either.
we got to get opposing
Because
t-shirts for this.
because think of it like this. If I don't want to go to the gym, I don't feel like going to the gym. Does that mean that I only go to the gym when I feel like doing it? No, you go anyways. It is the action. I could feel like dog doo doo. If I go up to my boss, you know what I'm doing? I have a smile on my face. I'm making eye contact. I drank a bunch of Red Bull or maybe some caffeine, some other route, and I am staring at them, giving them a handshake, and going over the thing that I practiced, reading all of the examples and everything that I've done and the reason why I deserve the promotion. I could feel horrendous.
But that's
I could be
overcoming
sick,
your
but it's because it's the outcome that matters. It's not the
Is that the
feeling.
mindset?
It's the mindset. It's the outcome. It's what you physically do, not the way that you feel about
I think that comes from what is that saying? My mother used to tell me this before she would smack me in public, man.
it.
Put your feelings in your back pocket or change your face.
Exactly. And that is why feelings
Listen,
don't
I would
matter.
still feel like caca, but
That's fine. And you can't, I'm not saying when I say feelings don't matter, it's not that you're not allowed to feel. It's that You can control the way that you feel, and the ultimate control is your actions. It's what you do. It's like when people say you can say a million things, but your action is what counts. It's all about the actions. It doesn't matter how you feel. You could feel horrendous, like you said, but if you show that you're energetic, it's the action that matters.
Man, you get me there.
Feelings don't matter. I told you. I told you. Feelings don't matter.
You
You
get
could
me there.
you could think of it any way you want.
All right, so yeah, that I guess that does work in tandem with looking for those advancements. So I have a question when it comes to the advancements.
Mm-hmm.
Reeling it back in, that is the word, right? It's
Yes.
not excelling. Okay. I know we talked about this before we even got on here. But when we're looking at advancements, where are we touching base when it comes to advancing to a location unknown? Not like unknown, like it's not even on the map. No, we're not talking about some weird movie stuff. Unknown to the person that's offered it.
Mm.
A completely out of your comfort zone,
Yeah.
still within your career realm. Like it's not like you'd be switching from IT to a fisherman or anything like that.
Yeah.
But advancing outside of the comfort zone.
Yeah. That's a really interesting topic. I would say that at the end of the day, you have a yes or no. You have two options, right? You either move forward or you don't. So you have to consider, this is very, very unique. It's a very introspective question because you have to consider it yourself. Everyone's situation is different. Like one example is, does the promotion matter to you? Like, do you actually want it or not?
Mm.
Uprooting your life, bringing your family if you have one, things like that, that all has to be considered. We could talk about that last, one of those last episodes of
I
Bluey,
knew you were gonna mention Bluey.
and they decided that a promotion wasn't worth them uprooting their lives. They were happy where they were. They were comfortable. I mean, they got a banging house. You know what I'm saying? Like they've got it.
They're comfortable where they are, and if I can remember correctly, it was the father was getting a promotion that was from what they described a significant better pay.
Yeah.
And in the architect, not the architect, I don't know, he digs for fossils.
Archaeology.
Yes, thank you. Forget you see, I don't know words. But in his realm, it's not something that you come by easily. I know this is a children's cartoon, but there's a lot of like hidden adult stuff in there. Pay attention to it.
Okay.
But
This isn't a Bluey
I know,
shout
I'm
out.
just saying, like, if you go watch it, you'll actually learn a lot that you can reference to in business. And his promotion being one of them. His promotion was about to take the entire family out of the comfort zone, like you mentioned, and completely just change everything that they're used to. They're used to living in a small community. Mom and dad are usually home, to what would be changed to living in the city. Dad's not going to be home during the time that I'm awake. And is the money worth it? Is the new environment worth it? We don't know anything about the father's work location, but let's say, regular scenario outside of Bluey, would your new work location be worth it? The new people that you're going to be working with. We can use you as a scenario. Military, constantly moving around. Um, but the most recent for you was from Florida to St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
And that was total new environment. We did all the research that we could possibly grit through our teeth, and we didn't get it right. We were getting all the stuff that St. Louis wanted to show us on the better side, moved to downtown not knowing any better. So we went from outside of our comfort zone, deep, for me anyway,
Yeah.
into fear, anxiety, constantly nervous. We were fine financially because we got a ridiculously cheap apartment, but what you pay for is what you get.
Yeah.
um the pay was great. The benefits from the job were great, but along the way, was it so great to have been worth it? Got experience, sure. You got to network, both of us, because we were both working at the same place.
Yeah.
But the aspect of it for the family, um our own household and our family members that were visiting, it was like, this is not me, this is not my life. I know that if you had been on your own, you would have thrived, because you thrive in anything. But me, myself, and I can't thrive in that type of environment.
Yeah.
So those who are looking into advancing outside of your comfort zone really do the research and put yourself in a scenario. Write it down if you have to. Do the little bubbles that we learned how to do in school where you got the pros and cons and what's in the middle.
Yeah.
I think it's a Venn diagram.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember names, but do it. It may sound silly, but if your cons are outweighing your pros, maybe not. And I know you might say, well, in the pros list, I would get six figures, but that cons list is really long. The pro list might be worth it though. Are you sure? Are you sure that money is the driving factor here and it's absolutely worth it? I've seen families torn apart. I've seen people go missing. So you got to really think about where you're advancing to. What is it for? Is it worth it?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, for that, like, hindsight is 2020, right?
Yeah.
After you experience something, you can say, well, that was or was not worth it. But before, you have to really just make an educated guess.
And you have to take more time than just sitting down and being like, I did the work. No. You know why? Because we all have that honeymoon phase, the horse blockers.
Mm,
You're only going to see in the moment. You got to take extensive time to think about things. And if that means that the opportunity might be passed on to someone else, then maybe it wasn't for you.
yeah. I mean, the way that I'm getting it, it sounds a little negative. Like you're making it seem
I'm
like,
being cautious.
yeah,
From our experiences, I'm being very cautious.
I don't see it as our time up here is negative. I think that the transition was
I
actually
almost
good.
died.
The transition was good for us, the family, because it brought us to where we are now, right? And where we are now is happy,
The transition was rough. And I
Yeah, but
think
it's
we see it from
always
different perspectives.
for sure. I view it as those are the steps that had to happen to get me where I am now. Like if I wouldn't be where I am now without that transition.
Like with the business.
Yeah, like I 100%. It
I
would
think you would
never.
have.
I don't not like this. Not the way that we're doing it and the way that it's being ran and because that gave me such an introspective into an HR department that I didn't have before.
Mm.
And specifically one with the environment that they had, it gave me a completely different, understanding of human resources and just people in general and leading relationships, things like that. Like completely. Like it 100% changed my perspective on everything. And it's one of the reasons why I'm happy with my life right now and I'm happy where we are and the trajectory that we're going, in my opinion, is positive.
That's good.
But you had to go through that to reach the other side, right? It's like,
I'm not going back.
but it's like people say before, when it comes down to like a hero movie, they have to go through the struggle first, right? Like they have to fight through the problem, and that's when they become the hero at the end.
That was a lot of struggle though.
I mean, but you get more out of it.
Yeah, well, we struggled not just from St. Louis, but like a long
Yeah,
time.
but that's the same thing though. Like that's the path,
Yeah,
right? And if you want to do big stuff, you got to take big.
I think you should still be safe. I'm not saying so safe that where you're missing great opportunities. I think cautious with a good mindset is where you should be approaching things.
Yeah, I
You're
mean,
more gung ho.
well, like do your due diligence. I 100% agree with that. I just want to make sure that people like the unknown is unknown for a reason, right? It's always going to be unknown until you actually go through the doors. So like don't limit yourself because you're scared of what's on the other side. It's down to the mindset. You know what I mean? Like if you do your due diligence, do your research, make sure that it makes sense. But if it makes sense, don't fear because you don't know what's going to happen. That's what life is. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
That's good. I need to start living more like that.
I mean, that's, in my opinion, that's how you advance in your career, right? You hit a wall, you say, can I overcome this wall? If not, then how do I go around it so I still find my own success? And that can be talking to your manager, trying communication first. If the communication doesn't work, that's your wall. Then can I talk to someone, maybe a different department, look to transition? Maybe that means looking for other jobs and leaving and then making sure that up front I communicate my expectations with them and how I want to grow. And then you're interviewing the company. You have an excellent way of interviewing the company that is trying to hire you, right?
Yeah. I have a pretty good niche at
Yeah, like
it.
you're really really good interviewer, or interviewee, I should say. And one of the things is that you ask the right questions. And that's a really big thing that people are missing is that's your time to find out if that's a growth place for you or not. And
Yeah.
if it's not, then look somewhere else, you
Hmm.
know? And I mean, don't get me wrong. This is all assuming that you're, like you've got enough money to pay your bills, you've got stuff to take care of your family. Like that should come first, always. You know what I'm saying? Your feelings don't matter, bills are more important. But after that, it's are you actually comfortable and can you find something better? And if you're kind of one of those people that think, I don't deserve better or I can't be better, that's
You're
nonsense.
gonna be
And
stuck there
you're
for the rest of your life.
exactly, you're literally just afraid.
Yeah.
And if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But like you can find better things. You just got to take that step.
Which, by the way, you remember how well, not remember what you just said about being interviewee, interviewer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you're not interviewing well when you're trying to get a job, especially a job that you're like, I'm really excited for this job, you may not be setting yourself up for success.
Yeah.
The reason why I say this, you need to scope out the competition. And I'm not talking about someone else who's interviewing for that same position. We have a lot of people who get involved with companies and, shortly after they're like, this ain't it. Well, you didn't know whether it was it or not because you didn't ask the right question. So you got handed the standard cookie cutter spiel
Yeah.
that most companies will throw at you, and you accepted it. You didn't ask questions to find out whether or not you belong there, and that's one of the reasons why I feel like I should put this out on public, my interview questions. But it's one of the reasons why people are so dissatisfied where they are.
Yeah.
They just accept, and then they're upset with everything.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, I'm like that too right now. But I have no one else to blame but myself. I didn't ask the questions I needed to ask.
Yeah.
I didn't have a full understanding. And because of that, I didn't set myself up in a proper growth pattern.
Mm.
Where, as in the past, do you remember when I interviewed for the high school and for the casino, I had what, a 2-page questionnaire?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like your interviewing is awesome.
I flipped the script.
Yeah.
You're not going to ask me questions
One
like
sided.
this one sided. I'm
Yeah.
gonna ask you questions. I need to
Exactly.
find out, are you worth having me?
Yeah.
And a lot of people need to find their self-worth. Just like you mentioned, if you feel like you're not worth it, you're not gonna go anywhere with not having self-worth.
Yeah.
You have to love yourself. And not
No,
sure if that ties into your feelings don't matter or not.
exactly. It does because you don't have to love yourself. Here's the thing. You ready? You don't have to love
I
yourself.
think you do.
You know what you have to do? You have to just create the kind of person that you can love. That's it.
Which you end up loving yourself if you create that person.
That's fine, but it's not like
And your
that's
feelings do
the
matter.
front part, right? Your feelings don't matter. It's the outcome.
Mm.
I can hate myself outright, right? Like I don't like I'm fat, I'm don't have the career I want, I'm unhappy. How do you fix that? Well, you break it down. You are unhappy about your career. Well, how about you advance it? So you go the path, right? I'll write out the whole schema. I'll break it down right now on how to advance your career. I'll do it real quick so that way we have like an actual tactical thing that people can actually use to advance themselves. So let's say that you are, at the interview stage, right? You talk to the interviewer, you ask the right questions. Specifically, communicating with them, I am looking to grow within the organization. Can I do that here? And if so, what would the path look like?
Be specific as
Yep.
well, because they'll throw you in any position they want you to, saying that you can grow, but you need to be specific what you're looking for.
Yep. Give like a timeline, specify where you want to be and like around the time frame, and that could be through the salary cap kind of focus or through the position title focus. So,
Mm-hmm.
the title, the pay, and then the timeline. Those are the three big things that you want to ask when you're referring to the path that you can take.
When you say pay, are you including the benefits?
I mean, not typically,
Like
because typically benefits
401k?
are are company wide. They're not necessarily specific to the position.
Okay.
Pay is very specific to the position. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Um, so that's the first step, right? So let's say, you're interviewing, you're now in the position. And for people that are already in the position, this is where you're starting from, right? You're already in the company.
Yep.
So now everyone's on the same page. You're working in the company that you're at, and you're in your position, your leader, or I'm sorry, you have a leader and you communicate with them. Hey, I brought this up during my interview. I'm very interested in growing within the organization. Can you please tell me what the path looks like? How high can I go? Sometimes you can't grow within a specific department because there's a limit, right? They only have a certain high level leader. And after that, you go into director, C-suite, vice president. You know what I'm saying? Like, it grows. It's just a step ladder. But you have to decide where you want that cutoff to be.
The earlier the better too.
Well, earlier to decide, not earlier cutoff.
Right.
Yeah.
No, earlier to decide. Sorry, I should have specified. Yeah, the earlier to decide, the better.
I mean, I don't think so, because you're a different person now than you were 5 years ago.
Correct. However, we don't have a lot of time to live.
I mean, that's true, but at the same time, like, it kind of goes twofold, because although we don't have a lot of time that we're going to live, you have plenty of time to make the opportunity, but you have to decide that time, like at that moment, I should say. So like you said, deciding earlier makes sense. But if it's already been for a while and you still haven't made the decision, you've got to decide
Yeah,
then.
like that 60-year-old accountant who decided she don't want to be an accountant, so she went to nursing school. She became a nurse in her 60s.
And that's awesome, right? Like, because you have 10, there's going to be a decade before you die, right? What is that decade going to
Hopefully.
look like?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, as long as you were born and you made it to 10 years old, there's a decade before you die. So that's the path, right? So you're working, you you communicate with your leader, let them know, what does the path look like. You get an actionable list of what they need to see. Do they need to see that you can pass a test? Do they need to see that you can, like, what exactly is the barrier holding you in that position?
Mm-hmm.
And then if they communicate well and you have the plan, you go through that. If you go through that, you have everything you need, and they're holding you on a leash and they're not letting you advance, it's the wrong place.
Yep.
That's it.
I agree.
It's that easy. That's the
Especially if
wrong
someone
spot.
decides to do the whole bait and switch. You get hired for something because that was the bait.
Mm-hmm.
And then they switch it up on you. Don't stay there.
Yeah.
And in that aspect, that's not really your fault if you did the due diligence, But if they really did switch it up, you said it in your interview, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I cannot do, this is what I absolutely can do. You set the record straight during the time of signing and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And things are still going against the plan in the way that it would deter you, you need to move on.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So for this situation, let's say it works out, right? Let's say your leader communicates well. They give you the plan, they work with you, and then you can get to the next step. Well, guess what? That's all you keep doing. You communicate with whoever your next leader is. You go over what exactly they would need to see you be able to succeed at. And then you keep going until you can't go anymore, or you just don't want to go anymore. Mm-hmm. That is called success. That is the pipeline. Congratulations.
There's not really a secret to it. Sometimes you just need it laid out.
I mean, yeah, for sure. Like, you're right. There's no secret. It's just, if you don't see it put in this way, you don't understand it. Like, it's hard to comprehend.
Yeah.
So that's if there's never a stop. You can just keep going forever. Now, let's be more realistic. It's probably going to stop at some point.
Yeah.
Either you get to a point where there's some old guys who work in a position and they haven't died yet or retired.
Yeah.
You can't move up, and I'm obviously making it a little bit more of a parody, but that's
you may just have to move kind of lateral on a ladder.
Exactly.
And then move up.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. You just make lateral moves, and sometimes here's the biggest kick. You have to take a step back.
Yes.
So that's the biggest kick, but those are your next options, right? Yeah. If you go up the ladder and you can't go anymore, you have to step away. Now, what does that actually look like in a tactical perspective? So you speak to your leader, communicate with them, doesn't work out. Okay. You now know this is the limit. You can't go any farther than this with this company. Do you love the company so much that you want to try a different position internally? Cool. Make that decision. The other decision is, do you want to move to a different company with a similar role? Cool. Make that decision. And the next one is, do you want to completely change everything? Do you want to start, and this is what it feels like, start over your career? Because although you do have the experience right now, if that experience doesn't almost completely handhold to the new position, your experience won't necessarily count for you.
Which really stinks.
Yep, but that is what it is.
Yeah.
So the only way to deal with it is to just face it. So sometimes you have to take a pay cut in a new field that you find interesting and then grow again.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do the same exact thing. During the interview process, I want to grow. This is as high as I want to go, or this is how far I want to go, or this is just a start, however idealistic you want to be at this point. Make the decision, and then you go up the ladder again. And it's just communication. At the end of the day, it's just communicating what you want, making sure that you have tangible metrics that you can actually quantify. And as long as you're just not a dirtbag, and it sounds like if you're going through these steps, it's pretty likely that you're not a dirtbag, right? You're able to do the job at some point. And that's how you advance.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter where it is, it doesn't matter what you want to do. If you want to advance in your specific career, this is considering you don't want to be an entrepreneur and just start your own company and stuff like that. That's a different kind of space.
Yeah.
But that's the plan. That's the program. And that's how you can grow indefinitely. And the thing is, this is a secret that people that were like the studs, the young CEOs, and
started in my garage.
Well, no, not the entrepreneurs. The ones that were voted into by the board.
Oh, I got you.
The ones, not the ones that built it themselves, the ones that get voted in. This is the VPs of marketing that were 30. This is, what I'm saying? This is all these high-level people. This is what they did. That's how they scale. They communicate, they move up, they found the barrier, they moved away from the barrier, and they kept going up.
Yeah. Which most likely, throwing out a recommendation here, don't burn your bridges.
Yes.
Keep a healthy relationship. If you feel like Tommy J is just, he's not a team player, you don't really want to mess with him anymore, you don't vibe, and maybe he's got a nasty attitude, you end things cordially with said person, you keep it healthy, but you don't burn a bridge. And the reason why I say this is because along the way, people are going to get curious about you and your relationships. And you're going to need that. Well, you have no choice. That information is going to be out there. In today's era, there's nothing that's a secret anymore. But it's also going to help you. It's going to help you continue on. You may need 10 to 15 recommendations. I think you needed like a rap sheet for the casino. And it's going to significantly help you. You may not know down the road when you need a VP in marketing, but you kept the connection clear and good with someone that you used to know in marketing, and behold, they're a VP now and they're looking for a spot. That's your bridge. So that's why I throw that out there. Keep your bridges clean, keep them open, don't burn them down. If you need to cut someone off, you do it in a cordial, professional way. Keep it healthy.
100%. That is wonderful advice. And taking it one step further, it's every person that you meet, that is the brand for yourself.
Your face. Your face is your brand.
Exactly. Like you, as a person, your work ethic, what they see you do, that is your brand. Everyone is technically an influencer, right? Because the way that you act influences the people around you.
Correct.
And their connection with your name, that's big. And no matter what stage they're at in their life, time doesn't stop, right? Everyone has their own path and everyone knows what they're doing.
Time is but an illusion.
Time is but an illusion. So understanding that it's really important to respect people, no matter how you feel about them, being cordial, just like you said, It is
Mm-hmm.
so critical
Yep.
because that is what people connect you with. And who knows, maybe 10 years down the line, they work for you or maybe you work for them, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And if you burn someone's bridge and then you have to work with them again later down the line, I hope you know how to mend it.
Here we are 10 years exactly from my first graduation of college. And I have a connection on LinkedIn that I would never think that I would be connected with in the coaching realm, life coaching,
Mm-hmm.
chatting, discovering ways how we can better what we're supposed to be doing now, moving forward in life. That is keeping a bridge open and clean. Is exactly what we're talking about. Now, I know that some people might hear this and they're thinking, well, what if they really, really burned me? Same goes. You know why? It's not just that person, but others may be paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
And how you handle situations is how someone's going to look at you and think, would they be a good spot in my company? Can I trust them to handle this position? If they saw you do well with that situation, that person that you're like, oh my gosh, they really grind my gears, but you handled them well, they're probably going to want you in their company. If you did not handle it well, they're not going to want you around.
Yep.
And cameras are everywhere. You see people all the time posting videos of somebody else without their consent, or even like the person doesn't even know it.
Mm-hmm.
Your face could wind up on the internet at any given moment. You've got to, it sucks because I'm more like stay true to yourself, but at the same time, you really got to keep that Disney smile and not necessarily put on a show, but just make sure you keep your audience in mind. You're
Yeah.
watching what you're doing, you're making the better decisions, you're taking the high road. It doesn't matter what this person did to you at the end of the day because what you do with the rest of your life is going to matter.
Exactly. 100%. Because your feelings don't
Oh
matter,
my
only
gosh.
your actions. Becca, you're right. Man, you know, when you're right, you're right. And
Those were
this is
not
one of
my
those
words.
times. Because the way that you feel about that person, that situation, that's not what
Oh
matters.
my
What
gosh.
matters, just like you said so eloquently, is what you physically do in that situation.
I did not say this.
You're right,
The
Becca.
audience heard me. I did not say this.
Man, audience members, just go ahead and put a shout out in there for Becca for finally understanding the feelings don't matter and pushing forward that veil.
Listen, this is for anyone who's paying attention. This is not just on the podcast. He's like this all the time. But yeah, yeah. You know what? I'm getting a little closer. Not super close, but I'm getting a little closer to that whole feelings don't matter. Um, in certain times and places. Oh, I'm just saying.
I got you. All right. Well, now I think that we broke down pretty well how to climb the corporate ladder, right? Or how to
Mhm.
climb the ladder of success. You know, move forward, communicate, always have that open communication with whoever your next leader is,
Yep.
and identify and know how to identify a stopping point. I think that's actually a pretty interesting topic and something we should talk about is
Knowing when
how do
to
you
quit.
know? Yeah, like what is the point where you is one side can look like pushing through and not giving up and the other one can look like giving up. So it really
Okay.
kind of depends on the perception of that.
I'm glad we're touching base on this. I have a grandfather on a certain side of my family that worked in the same job, only had one title change for 40 years.
Mm.
Not a big job, very small. And it's nothing to demean him for.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. But reflecting on that, he's a good person. He did not make a good career, choices. And I think that kind of reflects back on knowing your self worth, evaluating what what you're capable of becoming, and moving forward in your life. And I don't think that happened, which kind of set the example poorly among the entire family.
Yeah.
Which you're teaching me how to get out of that. We work on it every day with each other. You're constantly showing me how to better myself, which I appreciate. Just throwing that out there. But the reason why I use them as an example is because there are a lot of people who do this with themselves.
Mm.
And if it wasn't for you, I would have still have been at McDonald's,
Yeah.
being a manager, not getting paid to be a manager, for one. And at the time when you came and rescued me, essentially, I was there for 5 years,
Yeah.
manager for 4.5, not doing much. And I know there are some people who are probably going to get offended by this, and I do apologize, but that's not doing much with your life. I was a manager there, went to college on the side. I started in high school, went to college on the side, wasn't doing anything else.
Mm.
I had my household. I didn't have kids. I had my relationship with you. And it was just like, for me at that time, that moment in my life, I thought this is good enough.
Yeah.
And it's because I didn't see the potential.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't see or recognize they are not treating me the way I needed to be treated. And it was time to leave.
Mm.
If you hadn't convinced me, and I know a lot of people are probably going to be like, well, he's manipulating. No, you're not. There's a difference between manipulating and convincing. Because, like Judge Judy says, you didn't make me do anything. You pointed out the cons and pros,
Mm-hmm.
and you pointed out everything that I had the potential of doing. I saw that, I left. That is what a lot of people are not doing with their lives. They're not seeing the potential in themselves and the potential that they can do for their families, etc. And they're just staying in this rut, and they're just staying in debt
Yep.
and all these other issues in their lives. You have to better yourself to better your environment. That's just how life goes. So I didn't mean to get so deep on
No,
it.
no, you're good. I
Couldn't
like it.
help but like reflect on the woes.
No, I like it. Yeah, 100%. And you're right. Here's how I view it. It's comfort. You, your life doesn't suck enough that you think you need to change it. And everyone's definition of that is different, right? Just like everyone's definition of success is different. It is so subjective because it's everyone's individual thing. If you take, you know, a millionaire and you make them go bankrupt, they don't know how to get out of it, they don't redo it, and they start working at McDonald's making minimum wage, that is rock bottom for them, right? At least it
Yes.
would seem like it. Again, this would be based off the person. But then on the other hand, if you have someone who was born a slave in another nation, they came over here
Mm-hmm.
out of, however it is they made it, they became citizens, and then they got a job at McDonald's as a cashier. That to them can look like success.
Yeah.
It is extremely, extremely subjective.
Mm-hmm.
So I 100% get what you're saying. It really just comes down to, do you think it's possible? And that's such a big thing that people don't understand. And in my opinion, it's because of parents, or at least the environment. And what I mean by that is, if you see the same thing every day, that's your reality. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
If all of your friends are in a gang, or they are out in the streets, or they're all getting bad grades,
Mm-hmm.
or they're doing drugs, like whatever it is, that's your reality. That is all that you know.
And Alicia Keys is a big example of this.
Mm.
Alicia Keys grew up in an environment that was exactly what you just spit out: the gangs, the violence, the she would find needles on the street, and her and her mother were poor.
Yeah.
But she didn't stay there. She didn't just, I'm just gonna be no hate as a disclaimer, but I'm gonna be another teen mom. I'm not going to get my high school education, because where she grew up, that was the statistics. That was the
Yeah,
wide
that
statistics.
was the life,
That was the
right?
norm.
Yeah.
And instead, she is now one of the most known female singers in American history.
Hmm.
She took her mother out of that situation. She made a life for them. She made a life for her future generations. She did something.
Yeah.
She also had the ancestors that came over. It just depends. Like you
Yeah.
said, it's all subjective. And she knew by seeing that, her mother was very good about teaching her, what you see around you, that's not okay. You
See?
need to go and do better.
Yep.
So although they were living a poor life, even the mom at that time was noticed what was out there. She taught her daughter differently, and her daughter went and did something with herself.
And that's the biggest thing. It's having someone to tell you, like having, because like I said, if no one tells you, you can't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
We could all be in like a glass bubble right now, right? The world could just be like a glass,
Yep.
lock, just like Men in Black. Remember that one? Yeah. All right. Anyways,
No, I
but
do.
yeah, yeah. But so like that could be our world, and unless someone tells us, or unless we learn somehow,
Yep.
there has to be an outside force that moves you,
That
right?
really
This
drives.
the very basic
Well, you
laws of
also have
physics
to
here.
be
Like,
willing to accept it.
yeah.
And I'm not saying accept that your life is negative. This is what you
Mm-hmm.
accept. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I used to say this to my mom when I was younger because I didn't know how to convey my feelings. I hear you, but or I'm listening, but I don't understand.
Yeah.
Or I'm listening, I don't accept.
Mm.
Those are all contributing factors. Do you hear what this person is saying? Do you really hear them? Or are the words kind of just traveling in one ear, not the other?
Yeah.
So someone can be trying to drill this in till they turn blue because they're so tired of speaking. But the person who's supposed to be hearing this, learning to change their lives around, may not be.
Yeah. 100%. So once again, that really comes down to the mindset, right? That's what it is. And either you can find that mindset internally, like your own little inner monologue that tells you, this is my villain arc, or
Mm-hmm.
this is my hero story, right?
Yeah.
Or on the other side, you've got the people that have someone that can show them a path, right? It doesn't have to be the path, but a path that isn't the bare minimum, that isn't being essentially failing forever,
Yeah.
right? So,
This all leads back to advancing.
yeah, because it just, everyone has a different starting point,
Yeah.
right? But this track on advancing, it's really for any skill, any path. It's all the same thing. You move forward, you find your goal, you start going towards it, but you
Mm-hmm.
have to actually do the
And
actions.
you have to lay the foundation.
You know?
Stop trying to grab on the ladder midway. I know
Yeah.
some people they get lucky, air quotes, because they know somebody who knows somebody, etc. May not always work out in the end though.
Yeah.
Those who have to start from the bottom up, you have to lay that foundation.
100%. And when it laying the foundation, what does that look like?
Okay, not looking at a construction site
Yeah.
because I know that there's some of us that think quite literal. But when I say laying the foundation in the matter of speaking for career wise is the career that you're looking for doesn't need an education backing to it. Does
Mm-hmm.
it need a trade, a certificate, anything that results in you having to study on something and taking a test? If it does, are you studying for that? Are you getting the materials you need? Are you looking for a possible mentor to help you walk through the motions? Are you researching that job to make sure that that is where you want to be? There are certain jobs that for you to even get in the door, you have to do an internship.
Mm-hmm.
You may have not have gone to college, but that's what they call it, or shadowing. You have to do that first. Did you do that? Did you put the time in? There are some jobs like USPS, they require a certain fee to be paid before you can even apply.
Mm.
Some jobs like that because it has to cover certain expenses in the job.
Mm.
Did you plan for that? There's aspects to everything.
Yeah.
There's a requirement for everything. If you're the career you're looking for doesn't have the structure that it absolutely needs, are you sure that's where you need to be? Maybe you need to lay out the structure. Time to go back to the drawing board because you're gonna have to plan to build that.
Yeah. 100%. That's exactly what it is, right? And it's, at the end of the day, it's actionable steps that can be taken. And that's the biggest part that changes something from just an idea or like a philosophy and the actual outcome. If you're looking for the outcome, things have to be done. There's a saying where, like, thinking about the thing and planning to do the thing and drawing out the idea of the thing, it's not actually doing the thing.
Yeah, I think it's like on a poster or something. Think it, believe it, or something like
I
that.
mean, there's a lot of
There's a
different
lot of
ways to
different
like word it,
sayings.
but At the end of the day, it's the actions, not the feelings
Oh my gosh.
that matter.
I'm a very feeling driven person, but when it comes to my job, it is very professional
Yeah,
driven.
it's the
So
actions,
yes, it
100%.
is the actions, it is the mindset. I'm not going to approach my boss with a nasty attitude because I know that that's going to land me without a job.
Yeah,
So so gosh, feelings don't matter. It's starting to make more sense.
it is because it's true. So that's, I mean, I think we pretty much covered careers in general and like how to increase and how to
How to
improve. Anything
advance.
else you can think of to add or tack on?
I don't know. I think we covered everything. Communicating, keeping, the bridges are part of communication. Um, really keeping to the fundamentals, the foundation, being in the mindset and not the feelings. Knowing self worth. I can't think of anything else.
Yeah,
I can't
everything
even.
else is like normal stuff. Like you can Google how to make your resume better. You know, like you
Yes.
can Google what questions is most common during an interview
Yeah.
and prep and plan and do things ahead of time. You know, you can talk to people and connect with them on LinkedIn and start posting and communicating with people and making those connections that we've talked about, networking internally, externally, looking for groups. There's a million small things that you can do
Hmm.
that will lead to the outcome.
It's very small.
Uh-huh.
What do you think about the fake it till you make it?
Fake it till you make it. I think that fake it till you make it. I kind of like it. I'm not going to lie. Here's why. If you fake it till you make it the right way, what that means is that you were given a task that is higher than your current skill level and you're trying to accomplish it anyways. Does that sound like a problem?
Eh,
I mean, if you were given a task that was higher than your skill level, but you find the ways to complete it, you talk to people, you communicate, you do your research, you actually put in the effort, and then the product that you get afterwards, even if it's not the very best, it was the actual best that you could offer, that really doesn't sound bad to me.
I think it also depends on where is your goal for the make it. Are you faking it till you make it by getting the job? Because if that's where your goal ends, you're not going to be successful. Are you faking it till you make it and you are successful in that job through and through? Then that would be more of a positive outlook.
Yeah.
And I think there was like a whole movie on this with the guy from Back to the Future, and he faked it to make it. He found someone in the elevator, and he got a big, landed a huge job. I don't know, it's a movie, but
Yeah, I
I
remember
I don't fully agree with it.
that. Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of on the fence, and that's why I said, like, is your goal to get the job or is it to be successful in the job?
Yeah.
Because if you fake it till you make it and you're in the job, you're just occupying a seat that someone who deserves that job needs to be in.
I mean, for sure. I definitely get that mindset. I do still see it though as, the extent, right? Because it's not, if you're half, you know, trying something, then that's obviously not a true fake it till you make it. Because fake it till you make it, done the right way, in my opinion, isn't bad. Because all it is you were giving something that you weren't necessarily ready for. But if you actually try and push forward, like that's it. Like that's just called success,
Yeah.
right? There was an example actually recently of someone with the, well, yeah, I don't remember too well, but anyways, basically putting a project together, and if that project works, if the outcome is net positive, then that's called success, right?
Hmm.
That's called being the underdog and then winning. That's not a bad thing, right? But of course, if you don't have the right mindset to actually try and to work hard, then you're going to fail regardless,
Hmm.
whether you were skilled or not. You could be an excellent coder and sleep at your desk and not get the job done, right? So, like,
Yep.
sure, you know how to code or you know how to be a software engineer and things like that. But if you suck, then it doesn't matter. And that would be the
Or
true
like, are
if
you actually
you,
useful? Is it
yeah,
needed?
yeah, for sure. Like, are you actually needed? Like, what I'm saying? Does the position make sense? Does all this go into it? So I don't think fake it till you make it is wrong. I think that it can be done the right way. and it's good for literally everyone, because that's how, I mean, that's what entrepreneurship is.
Mhm.
Like, entrepreneurship is literally fake it till you make it. Like, who's gonna want to look at someone on the street and be like, oh, an entrepreneur, that's basically just like a homeless guy who's asking for money. I mean, isn't that what investing is? You have an idea and
That's an interesting
you have
aspect.
an idea and you're trying to convince other people that your idea is gonna work.
I mean, apparently, statistics show that homeless in the most busiest streets of Manhattan are making more than your everyday six-figure worker.
Yep.
I don't know how accurate that is, but uh, the fake it till you make it. I'm still on the fence.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm not against it. I'm
No.
not. I'm not neither full gun ho or completely against it. I think it just depends on who's doing it, where they're going with it. Is it successful? Are they successful?
Yeah.
And I mean, you're not gonna pull off something like "My name's Jeff," and that was a horrible fake it till you make it.
Wow, that's hilarious.
But I only ask because I'm sure that there are many who are kind of thrown in that on a throughout their lives trying to get jobs and whatnot.
Yeah. No, I definitely get that. And yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Like I said, it's very
Subjective.
individualistic. Yeah, it's very subjective. And an example of a very extreme, I think a movie that would make sense is Catch Me If You Can, right? The one where the guy becomes a doctor, a lawyer, an airline pilot.
I feel like I've
You
heard of
watched it with
this.
Tom Hanks?
Did I?
Yeah.
Man,
We
I'm
yeah.
so bad with the stuff.
But it's like, he literally fakes it till he makes it
That's
and
crazy.
does
Which
all these
impersonating
things.
most of these will lock you up. So
100%. No, yeah, he was arrested.
okay,
Yeah, it's a true story. But that's an
true story.
example of, fake it till you make it the wrong way. But in my opinion, fake it till you make it is just the beginning of success,
Okay.
because you have a very big goal. Like right now, if I say I want Omni HR to be $1 trillion company like Google and Amazon, who is going to believe that, right?
Right.
But in 30 years, if I can really keep going and keep pushing, that's the underdog story, right? And then, of course, people at that time will see the company and they're going to be like, oh, they were always like that, or whatever, because it's always changes. Billionaires were never poor, you're right. They were always billionaires since they were born.
Yeah.
That's like the perception that people have,
Did you
thinking
start in
that.
your garage? That seems like to be the key for every
Well, that's the thing,
billionaire.
is that everyone like has that perception of like people being like villains, that they have money. Like, no, they worked hard,
I think
they
that
were
is
smart.
a.
That's it.
I'm not going to throw a political label on it, but I think that is a part of new culture. And I'm trying to word this tactfully.
Nah, just say it. Go ahead. Let it rip.
Um, well, I don't want to ruin your podcast, but what I'm trying to say is that there are those who can't see themselves in that position. There are those who are jealous of that position.
100%. Mm-hmm.
And they take that as the rich are evil, and there are some that are out there that are,
Yeah.
and there are many that are out there that worked their rear ends off to get where they are
Mm-hmm.
in legal manners.
Yeah.
And I don't see it right to strip that from them.
Yeah.
And
100%.
we're here down at the low, and I'm saying this. And from even when I was younger, still thought it. I know that there are some out there that I'm like, no, they're not doing anything legal. But I can identify it.
Yeah.
But there are so many that are willing to strip everything from those at the top who work so hard to get there out of jealousy, out of resentment, just because they don't have what they have. I don't expect anybody from anywhere to give me anything because I'm at the low and they have what they got.
Yeah.
I don't expect that at all.
Because that's just asking to be charity.
But that's most of our culture.
It's because it's nowadays hard work is negative, and it's interesting. But that's kind of where we're at right now. We're like, I think we're actually starting to get back out of it. I think that we're in a wave right now where entrepreneurship is really positive, where actually putting in work and starting to focus more on people's health and things like that. Lately we've been in a health boom. I mean, it's not something that's like overly noticed. And right now, I know the obesity rate in the U.S. is still high, but I mean, think about it. The
We're fixing it.
gyms that have been jumped up, all like the Pelotons and things like that. Everyone's focusing on diet and nutrition
Well, have
now.
you
Like,
noticed local cities? I know this is stirring away from our main topic, but
oh, super, yeah,
yeah, local cities are putting in more free fitness machines along trails,
yeah,
nature trails that are free access. You just have to show up.
yep.
But
So,
um, circling back to because this those billionaires had to advance,
yeah,
and they had to start from somewhere.
mhm,
But circling back to those who are they have so much hate in their mindset for these billionaires. I mean, if you want it, you've got to actually go for it.
mhm.
Stop sitting somewhere behind your keyboard talking about how Jeff Bezos needs to be brought down. For what? For what? He started a
For
garage
being a savage.
for an ebook company, and
Yep.
he saw the potential in every aspect. The dude has a pharmacy now.
Hmm.
He sells cars. Did
Yep.
you notice that?
Yeah.
Amazon sells cars because he saw a need in the industry, in each industry, and he expanded. He made wise decisions. He had a team.
Hmm.
That's not someone who stole from somebody.
Yeah.
That's someone who grinded, who didn't sleep, who put his feelings aside.
Oof. Yeah. You're
I'm gonna
right.
say it. I'm gonna say it. He knew his feelings didn't matter. He grinded. He got there. He advanced.
Yep.
I'm not gonna lie. I kind of look up to Jeff Bezos.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Kind of do. It's not just because I shop on Amazon every day, but I see what he did.
Yeah.
I remember what Amazon started as a little rinky-dink ebook company that hardly worked anytime you try to use on your phone. To now, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's integrated everywhere. That's just like that's someone, one of the many who got there, who
Yeah.
advanced, who climbed the ladder. He went lateral when needed to. He took steps back if he needed to. I'm just saying,
No, for
people need
sure.
to stop hating.
No, 100%. And I mean, it's really one of those situations where, look, at the end of the day, life's not fair. Everyone starts at different points. Everyone has different genetics. Everyone starts in a different environment. Life's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
And are you ready? You have to get over that because your feelings don't matter.
This is gonna become your slogan, isn't
I
it?
think so. I think I'm gonna start making merch and I'm gonna start selling it. It's gonna say
Oh
your
my
feelings don't
goodness.
matter. Life's unfair. Get over it.
I just really hope that those of the more negative, hateful communities in the world don't start wearing your merch.
Oh my god, that'd be hilarious.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
It's like we don't want it to be out of context.
Right? Like that's the new brand image. That would
Oh
certainly be
my
something.
gosh. Omni HR CEO pushes hatred on the masses. No.
No, they'll just start clipping like certain things that I say and they'll just
They
start
don't even
posting
need
that
to
out.
now. AI does it all.
That's
They'll
true.
just create a whole video out of you.
Hashtag deepfake.
I heard about that too.
Yep.
All right. I think we are good to move on.
All right. Well, if you stuck with me this long, I truly appreciate it. And if you like the content, please rate the show. And if you're feeling a little crazy, maybe share it with someone.